fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my God!
Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Well, after our Easter break here for Club Day Masters, we are back with the championship and in a very, very exciting place. A place we all know well and have come to love over the years. As you can already tell, it's Mount Panorama Bathurst. And we're carrying over maybe a little bit of a Bathurst 6-hour vibe here because we've got mainly production style cars for a 1-hour endurance race. So that is going to be very, very interesting. And we look forward to that coming up, but it's qualifying first. I'm David Haynes. I'm joined by Cam Dance, Jay Kennedy producing here for our coverage on SimSpeed. And of course, today's coverage brought to you by all those you see on your screen, but especially SimWorks Race Simulators, special round presenting sponsor this time at Bathurst. Cam, we have seen many a sim race at Bathurst before, and rarely are they ever dull.
Yeah, absolutely. This place seems to always put on some really entertaining racing and some very dramatic racing as well, as we've seen in the past. And we've seen a lot of various different things happen around this mountain. So I presume tonight's going to be no different and going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, precisely. 20 minutes of open qualifying, all cars, and I mean all cars, on track together at the same time for a 20-minute session to set the grid. Then we head into a 1-hour race. It's going to be split up on strategy because fuel limitations, etc., are going to mandate a pit stop for our drivers. And then also the presence of some safety cars is going to make our drivers strategize on their feet, think on their feet. And that could also provide some surprises. The two categories of car that we've got, as you can see, the Audi TCR. Boy, did they give us some exciting racing on television the other weekend. Literally a week ago. And we'll see how they go. Always an excitement machine, always very close. Long straights at Bathurst here allow them to slipstream a little bit and stay stuck together. But when you're talking slipstreaming, you've also got to look at our second class in this series and in today's race, the Mazda MX-5 Cup car. Very, very production-based. Production engine, production bodywork, to a spec roll cage, etc. They are always excitement machines as well. And when you come to these sort of large tracks, these almost Grand Prix style tracks as well, rather than some of the smaller or tighter or club layouts, then it's always excitement for the Mazda MX-5s that race very, very closely. So I wonder what they will do today. As you can see though, in qualifying, Cam, it's going to be interesting because we have both classes of car on track together at a track where it is very difficult to get a clean run over the top of the mountain. I predict there's going to be quite a few drivers in both classes who aren't able to set a representative time in a 20-minute session.
Yeah, there's certainly going to be a little bit of traffic management going on between both classes. Obviously, the TCRs are going to be held up over the likes of the top and down the straights as well. But the MX-5 is really going to be a little bit of a handbrake for some of them. But nevertheless, it's going to be fascinating to see who's going to be managing the traffic best and who's going to be able to time their runs perfectly as well, so they don't end up getting held up. And you probably want to get a lap in it as early as you possibly can too, as a result, because of where they are in relation to each other. So it'll be fascinating to see what happens. But you can see with the MX-5s, it's a big train at the moment coming up through Sulman with the likes of Ascari of Doyle and Sharp all drafting each other across the top of the mountain. And that's probably what we're going to see pretty much throughout the entire MX-5 classes, them all trying to draft each other or try and get some sort of draft to make qualifying as quick as possible and then use that to their advantage in the race as well for strategy.
Man on your screen is Sean Doyle, and we're talking about maybe a little bit of give and take between the two classes in this qualifying session. But what about this, where they're just trying to position themselves to get a slipstream that could be oh so important here. Sean Doyle, there might have been a bit of contact at Griffin's Bend earlier around on this lap. We're going to find out shortly which of the flying laps count. But I still have to feel like even if this is a valid and flying lap for Sean Doyle, he'll be thinking about, in this last part of the lap, setting himself up for a good flying run on the next one. He's going to get hit from behind, though, as he closes the door on a TCR, who may have been on a flying lap as well. There is only a few times on the board. Well, that goes and settles it for all four of the cars off the track at the chase there.
Yeah, certainly looked a
great
messy.
start.
Yeah, certainly not a great start at all, with the fact that it ended up a little bit messy for more than 2 cars there, and unfortunately a few TCRs in the background having a bit of a tussle up as well. But Aaron Oliver currently P3 on the board at the moment, was the first driver to set a representative lap time at least, and then has been picked by Rehana, Boyd and Lehman, not too far off the current P1 position for MX5 as well, currently ahead of Philip Paradiso, but we'll see what the likes of McMillan and that can do. McMillan comes across the line to set at P4 and TCR.
Certainly does. You can see the times on the left-hand side of the screen coming in there. Not grouped by class, though, which may or may not make things interesting. Who knows? Here is Lee Harrison. That's looking pretty good. And it's going to put him to second. He's got his friend and comrade in Ivan Vantagiato behind him there as well. I wonder if Ivan's going to maybe pick up a little bit of slipstream in places. But one of the things we noticed with this TCR car and the slipstream is maybe not so much coming up Mountain Straight here, but coming down Conrod Straight in a good tow, you can hit the rev limiter in 6th gear. I saw the Alfa Romeo TCRs doing that in the TCR Australia series in their most recent round as well. So that's a real life thing that can happen, as well as frequently here on the sim. Fixed ratios and a long straight like this, downhill with a big slipstream, you can almost top out these cars.
Yeah, absolutely, and it makes it that a little bit more challenging to pass as well if you've got quite some distance between yourself and the car ahead. So making sure you're as close as possible and trying to get the ever so slight little bit of an extra RPM is going to be quite crucial to getting some passes done on the way down into the chase. But currently seeing a few MX5s set some times, the likes of Calipides, and that's still yet to set some at the moment, but we'll have to see what he can do. Currently had a very good result so far in the first few rounds of the season.
Well, that's a little bit of jockeying for position going on there, potentially, between Sam Lehman, who I think is currently top of the board for his class and may well go on to improve here. Nope, he doesn't. Just misses out on improving on this lap. And he's not happy with it. That's not very respectful, though. Must be said in an open session. Nick Skariev manages to put a time on the board. Philip Paradiso as well. Is Adam Sharp, good improvement. That looks like second in class, if I read correctly.
Yeah, it looks like Sharp's gone to P2. Scary was currently sitting at P3, not too far off what Adam Sharp did as well. I think about 2/10, so it's not a lot of time in these MX5s, but we'll see what Aaron Oliver can do and whether he's going to be able to improve on his lap time. Comes across the line and is not going to be an improvement, so going to be no advantages there. And Fantagiato, though, does go to P2 by the looks of it, thanks to that draft.
Darren Sharp, we ride on board with into the final corner. Good museum to the right. And riding plenty of the curb. The curbs can be quite sharp in a little car like this, a little toboggan. Sets a 2:35 and he's going to look to move forward from there. But setting a time is half the battle. I am seeing only about 18 of 30 drivers with a time on the board right now. let alone is it representative, is it competitive, is it where they deserve to be?
Yeah, still a few drivers yet to set some times, the likes of Buchanan, Hen, Connors, Gomez, and a few others as well. Burst, Hides, certainly some contenders that really should have set a lap already and be up the point end of the field, but are ending up down the order as a result of what's been happening in this qualifying session with a bit of drama. So we'll have to see what's going to happen. Vartanian comes across the line, doesn't improve though on that lap.
Dylan Burst gets one in. Is Caleb Hides going to? Previous lap of 7.5 minutes. Don't think that's... He might have set out by bicycle on that one, but 2:32 is looking all right. Be between Burst and Hides for the pole there, I would think.
You'd probably be right there, so we'll see what's going to happen in the rest of the session with just under 10 minutes to go, or just over 9 minutes. Andrew Hobby comes across the line, but doesn't look like he's set a representative lap time, and that's a little bit of drama going on at the final corner. It's scary of doing a 360, an impressive one at best.
Making a bit of a menace of himself, I think.
So what can he do coming down Connor at the moment in that very, very psychedelic MX-5? It's certainly a very out there livery. It's quite literally the definition of a sticker bomb, I must admit. Oh, that's a little bit wide, and that's going to end up being an off track by the looks of it. So that time's not going to count by the looks of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, that lap is definitely bye-bye after that excursion. What about Darren Sharp? Can this be an improvement? We all know from watching all of our Lap of the Gods and shootouts that the timing line comes up very quickly out of the final corner here. And for Darren Sharp, it's not enough to improve. Lachlan Manif, currently 6th. Currently ducking into the pit entry to get out of the way of one of the Boyds, and it is the younger Boyd. It is Jack Boyd, who, makes a dog's breakfast of it in the final corner, up across the curb, onto the grass. Not a good finish. Vartanian just shy of an improvement as well. As we're into the second half of the session, it's getting a little bit more do or die to get a time on the board. Can you tell me how to get an improvement on 3 minutes easily for Marlon Fraser? 2:33.
Certainly a nice little improvement there. Andrew Hobby, though, what can he do? It's looking like it might not be an improvement. Comes across the line, and it's literally a dead flat 19,000. So manages to put himself somewhere in the order. Doesn't look like it's improved, though. Sorry,
I think it did. Yeah, not huge amounts, but a bit. Lee Harrison has Aaron Oliver warp into existence in his mirror, and what a mirror it is in these TCR cars, by the way. Get a lot of real estate, the mirror in the TCR car. It'll be Glenn Boyd, because Jack Boyd is currently in a gravel trap. So Glenn Boyd crosses the line to get in front of one of our MX-5 runners. Nicky Skariev, what are you up to, my man? That's not looking particularly speedy.
He's not going particularly fast down Conrod. Not quite sure what he's trying to do, whether he's out of fuel, waiting for someone. Not entirely sure. Maybe trying to give himself a little bit of space, maybe?
Answers on a postcard, I guess. Stephen Owen trying to back it up. Cook wants to go behind him. Saw Paradiso get tangled on the way down into the chase there, and that almost with sort of 5 minutes left means you got, oh gosh, be lucky to get out and then do a flying lap for the MX5 runners by about this point in the session now as well. So big lap here at Bathurst, 6.2 kilometers or so. Makes these qualifying sessions difficult because an out lap takes a long time, as does a flying lap, of course. A lot more drivers with times that count, though, now at this point. 27 drivers with at least a time. Shannon McMillan is one of them. Richard Brookfield's just gone and improved to put McMillan back one more spot. And now McMillan improves to jump up 5 spots and into 10th.
Yeah, nice little improvement there to move up the order, but what can Vartanian do? And that's clearly some mowing because of the fact that he's just run a little bit deep on the way into the chase, so that's not going to be an improvement there. Glenn Boyd, though, coming through the chase now. A little less lawn mowing there for Glenn Boyd. We'll see what he can do and whether he can improve as Vartanian gets out of the way at just the perfect moment through Murray's Bend now to finish the lap, and it's looking like it's not quite going to be an improvement there, unfortunately, for Glenn Boyd. So he's going to remain in P12 for the time being.
Buchanan with the Kyle Juice livery, at least for part of it. He'll probably be starting his final flying lap of the session now, assuming a hard cut to the end of qualifying. Jackson Rayhanna, also one of the drivers, very graciously providing us their webcam feed, and on such a great occasion as well. He sits a little bit comfortably at the top of qualifying at the moment. His teammate Angus Cook likewise.
Yeah, certainly sitting pretty at the moment as Rayhanna at the top of the time sheet.
Looks
See if they can improve.
Maybe it looked better than it was.
He doesn't look like he's made an improvement there. Half a second quicker than his personal best. Brookfield coming through the final corner as well to finish another lap, and it's not going... No, it is going to be an improvement, only just, but doesn't move any further up the order, so I'll stay in 14th.
All TCR action in Murray's at the moment. Big lap from Manif to the top of the board, and by 0.2 of a second or so as well. So he got a really nice slipstream off Andrew Hobby, or should I say a jet stream. Good lap from Manif.
Yeah, very, very good lap from Manif. What can Sam Lehman do? And does improve on his time. Still currently behind Hyde's Burst and Doyle, so currently sitting at P4. And exactly 0.2 quicker than Brady Buchanan as well. Glenn Boyd comes across the line, and not going to be an improvement there as well. Jack Boyd comes across the line, currently puts himself P2 with that lap. So very, very nice lap there by Jack Boyd.
I'm going to say that this lap for Brady Buchanan hasn't been quite so nice. There's some damage on the front there that appears to be hindering him, and would also suggest he made contact with something somewhere on that lap. Anthony Connors is going to show us a bit of the grass on the entry, a bit of the curb at the apex, but then navigate it all the way through to set a far more representative lap, wipe a couple seconds off that, and knock in a 2:35. So Rayhanna and Cook, what have they been doing? Have they been working together? Has Cook been getting the slipstream? Cook looks a little closer. Both of them are going to cross the line. And I'm going to see no improvement from Rayhanna. And no improvement from Cook. Interesting.
Yeah, I might have thought they might have had something there. Christopher Hen improves to P8, though, with the lap that he's just finished. And Ray Morgan setting his fastest lap as well on that one. And Scary of do on the way through the final corner. Hopefully he's going to get a valid lap in here as he comes across the line. It's a 2:33.006. So very, very nice lap there to put himself in just behind Brady Buchanan.
I think there's a couple of drivers that have parked it now. The track's kind of clear if you're in the right place to start a flying lap a couple of minutes ago. So there's some drivers finding that there's less cars out on track right now than there was at the start of the session. Hence improvements from Lee Harrison, improvements from Andrew Hobby, improvements from Stephen Owen. The TCR cars are not tripping over as many MX-5s as they were earlier in the session. The checkered flag is out, but everyone's going to get to finish their lap, including Dylan Burse.
And is not going to be improvement there by the looks of it. What can Vartanian do, though, coming across the line? An 18.880, not going to be an improvement for him either, so he will start P7. Boyd goes to the top of the timesheets, though, with a 17.9, so very, very last second lap and a very, very quick one as well. So he'll be absolutely stoked to start on pole and not too far ahead of Manif as well, so we'll see what's going to happen between those two over the course of the hour. But it's like for the most part everybody is done. Buchanan's going to bail out of this lap, so no improvement there. Anthony Connors, one of the final few drivers on a flying lap, so we'll see what he's going to be able to do as far as a lap time goes. We'll see if he can improve on that 35.2 that he's currently got, and that's not going to be improvement, and that's going to be the barrier.
Cook comes through though, and he gets a big improvement because he slipstreamed and slingshotted past his teammate down Conrod Straight on that one. So Rehana kind of giving up a lap to try to help Cook up the board a little bit. And now there's only a few cars left on flying laps, trying to work their way around the checkered flags, including Philip Paradiso, who we saw having a tough time in the chase here earlier in the session, but now a bit quieter around the mountain, can run his lines uninhibited. Turns out his lines might have been a little wide of the apex at the bottom of the hill there. The rest of it we are going to see.
Oh, that was grass though on the entry. Barely managed to hold on to that as well. Comes across the line, and it's going to be a 53.983. So an improvement there to be ahead of M Sharp.
Who else is still out there? Daniel Gomez, maybe? He's got no time, so if he just completes a clean one, which is not, no, he was on his lid in the elbow. So let's take a look then. Everyone else is off track? Everyone else is off track. Our pretty much locked in starting grid for our 1 hour race in Club Day Masters at Mount Panorama. On the pole and defending champ, Jack Boyd, sharing that front row with Lachlan Manif, then Lee Harrison, Jackson Rehana, Stephen Owen, Ivan Vantagiato for our front three rows. Behind them, Mario Vartanian, Angus Cook, Andrew Hobby, Christopher Henn, Aaron Oliver, and Shannon McMillan, all TCR runners there still.
Yeah, and then you're going to have Glenn Boyd, Richard Brookfield, Isaac Edwards, Matthew McMillan, Caleb Hydes to be the first MX-5 in the field, and then you go back to Dylan Burst, Sean Doyle, Sam Lehman, Brady Buchanan, Nick Scariev, George Gutierrez, Marlon Fraser, Philip Paradiso, Adam Sharp, Ray Morgan, Anthony Connors, Darren Sharp, and Daniel Gomez to round out the field.
Looks like a standing start here at Mount Panorama. Looks a lot better than a standing start at Daytona, so that's good. And yeah, Caleb Hydes with the pole for the MX-5s, and I think the tail of that field is probably going to be wrapped around Murray's Corner, which is always awkward for a standing start there, particularly if you're one of those cars who find themselves in the middle. But a minute left on gridding, and then we are going to have everyone
nearly everybody gridded up by the looks of it. Still waiting on a few, I would say, but we'll see who's going to get the best jump, because those TCRs are certainly going to be quite something to get off the line, and could possibly see a little bit of drama with the fact that the MX-5s will possibly get a much better jump than some of the TCRs. So we'll have to see what happens. Hopefully no dramas on the way into turn 1 or over the top on lap 1 for that matter.
track temperature. That's something to keep an eye on for the opening laps in both of these cars, has to be said. 22 Celsius on the track, 21 in the air and overcast. So tyres always start very cold on these TCR cars, and it will take a little bit for them to come in to their best. Jack Boyd has the pole position. He has the inside for turn 1. He is going to rev up that Audi TCR, and the green flag is going to wave. He's going to launch away pretty well, and I don't think the launch was that great from Manif. He's immediately trying to squeeze off Lee Harrison. They've come together in some of the MX-5 field. 3 wide through the opening corner there for some. And immediately some difficulties for your MX-5 leaders, but the power of the turbocharged TCR cars is going to see them stretch away from the Mazdas coming up Mountain Straight for the first time.
Yeah, certainly going to be the case, and still some of the TCRs in the background squabbling for position on the way into Griffin's Bend and to Giotto, trying to hold off Angus Cook, who's looking like he's going to try and get a move done, but not quite going to be able to do it. Him looking very, very racy on hobby as well, but everybody deciding to go single file through the cutting for the first time. So far so good for everybody in both classes as well. And we'll see what's going to happen over the top of the mountain, because it's usually where all the drama happens.
Caleb Hydes, what drama is he having? Not sure, but for almost everyone else at the station, that is definitely drama. He's got to flick spin it around. That car is
very second-hand,
grabbing awfully. Let's find out what happened for one of our MX-5 leaders. Here he is, trying to lead the whole pack away. And he picks up understeer in the middle of the cutting, gets helped around as well, but he bounced nasty off that wall even before Dylan Burst clipped him on the rear. So Hyde's a big loser on that one, but in the TCR field, very much holding station. The only movers is 6th and 7th have flipped between Vartanian and Vantagiato here. Everyone else getting away evenly from the grid, running evenly up towards Griffin's Bend, and then difficult to pass from there onwards. You can make some moves at the chase here, particularly if your leader, Jack Boyd, runs off a little bit wide. In MX-5, this slipstream is super powerful, and we're seeing some of them go back and forth a little bit. This for the lead, is it not?
It is indeed for the lead, and Sean Doyle is going to slip on by Dylan Burst to take the lead of the MX-5 class. So very, very nice move there to move ahead of Burst. I must admit, when Hydes did actually hit the wall, it looked very, very odd watching on board when he sort of just ended up going straight ahead. It was very, very unnatural, but nevertheless, Sean Doyle doing a big old curb hop on the way through the final corner. Not exactly a curb you'd typically use in a race car, but nevertheless, he's managed to make that work and look very, very spectacular in the process. But Hydes is going to try and get this one, Burst, sorry, is going to try and get this one back on the way up Mountain Straight, a bit in front of the field though in the TCR class. Locking me still applying the pressure to Jack Boyd at the moment, and Lee Harrison not too far behind as well. So the top 3 nose to tail starting to form a little bit of a breakaway from Jackson Rihanna as well.
No rest for the wicked is super busy for both of our class leaders right now. You can see the kind of pressure Jack Boyd has early with Manif, Harrison, Jackson Rehana very much coming along with him. He's not able to get away from them over the top. He's not able to get away from them on mountain or Conrod Straight, or even the pit straight for that matter. But Manif straddles the curb, Tony Hawk style, at the top of the hill. The front-wheel drive TCR cars don't like putting the power down in the dirt at all. It just makes them understeer even wider. Gives you even worse drive. Aaron Oliver with the body language getting a bit sideways there on his way into the dipper. And then the famous elbow. Critical to get the drive off there. And I wonder if someone like Lee Harrison here is going to be hitting the rev limiter with a double toe. He's in 6th gear already, making 6,300, 6,400 RPM. The whole dash lights up red to complain. And yeah, that's mighty close.
If I'm not mistaken, the rev limiter is about it's either 6,700 or 6,800. One of the two. It's very, very close to when that shift light comes on, but that engine will be screaming in tears from the fact that it's pretty much on the limiter for the most part of Conrod Straight. But those top three still not really changing much, and Boyd's starting to build a little bit of a gap to Manif as well. So we might see Boyd try and build a little bit of a gap back at the front of the field of MX-5. So Hides goes down to the Burst, goes down to the inside of Doyle. Doyle holds it around the outside. They'll keep that position. So Burst hasn't managed to make that pass happen in the course of one lap, and he's actually going to dive for the pit lane as well, which is a rather interesting strategy. So possibly trying to get a little bit of clean air, but that means Lehman and Buchanan will move it into second and third respectively.
I heard a whisper that everyone's being given bigger fuel tanks than they're meant to have. And therefore, sure, I think he's pitting to get the damage fixed on his car, but he's also thinking an MX-5 with an unrestricted fuel tank can fill up and get home from here as well. So that gives us a really, really, really wide pit window of sorts. Could be what is going on there. Working in unison with the fact that he might want to just clear that damage off his car. This is the TCR action though, and there's big smoke. Whoa, both Giotto and Harrison are around.
Oh no!
That smoke, you can't see a damn thing, and Lee Harrison gets absolutely drilled by Glenn Boyd. That is a big incident at the top of the hill.
Poor Glenn Boyd with absolutely nowhere to go. Wouldn't have seen the slipstream car ahead of him of Lee Harrison until he came over the rise, and by that point he would have pretty much just drilled straight into him. So unfortunate for all of them, and the teammates coming together really wasn't ideal at all, but that's quite some amount to digest, and Boyd even getting clipped on the way by it as well for good measure by Shannon McMillan too. We'll get an on board and see what Glenn Boyd saw coming over the rise. You pretty much just know where to go straight into Lee Harrison, unfortunately, and then just hit from behind as well by Shannon McMillan.
I reckon Vantagiato was the most dramatic in all of this because, okay, Lee Harrison slams into the wall, but then, oh my goodness, then Manif has his own incident further down at the dipper as well. All sorts going on there. But it's Vantagiato who just gets slightly clipped and goes for a wild ride as well.
I must admit, I'm actually quite impressed with how well he did somewhat hold that, but on board here with Vantagiato, who comes over the rise, a whole bunch of smoke, sees his teammate, unfortunately, and then concrete sky cars, concrete, and yeah, that's the pretty much not the ideal way to have that lap go.
No, especially not with your teammate. There was 3, 4, 5 cars on the pit lane and some more MX-5s as well.
Oh no, more drama at Salman Park as well as Stephen Owen in the fence. Not quite sure what's happened there for that to happen, but we'll get it virtual racing school replay and see what's happened. And it's happened a corner earlier actually between himself and Mario Vartanian, and then they've come on through over the little crest, and Owen's kind of just squeezed Vartanian into the wall, and then looks like Christopher Hen, Aaron Oliver, and even Marlon Fraser having to take evasive action there.
Didn't know which way he was going, got sort of knocked around, and then just kept getting punched. Sean Doyle and Sam Lehman are having some long pit stops here. I think they'll get that time back later in the race, but Doyle, I don't know if he's sped on the way into the lane or he's cut part of that famous chicane on the entry. Here's Doyle and Lehman. Would have been battling for the lead in class, I imagine.
Yeah, they actually were coming on through the chase, and they've done a normal pit stop by the looks of it, but we'll see if there's anything untoward has happened on the way in. Hard on the brakes and over both of the curves. Doesn't look like any drama sort of happened, so I'd say that's probably going to have been a speeding penalty. Although he did check it up quite a bit, so not quite sure what's happened there, but he's come out well and truly behind the likes of all the MX5 drivers, including Caleb Hydes, who was the first to pit as well with that damage. So you're not quite sure what's happened there, but more than likely it's a penalty, and we've got more in the lane. Aaron Oliver and Mario Vartanen in the lane as well, more than likely to get that damage sorted.
Oh. Brady Buchanan gets a little bit of help. Very aggressive bump draft, and then decides he's going to follow the strategy everyone else is taking. So now we've had Lehman, Burse, Glenn Boyd, and a lot of others pit. Roy Morgan as well.
That's a very, very conservative entry on the way into the lane, slowing up as much as they were, but at least they've gotten on in, and more than likely haven't sped it into the lane either. Jack Boyd and Glenn Boyd on that track together on the same piece of real estate as well, and it looks like they're going to do a little bit of multi-21 going on there to let each other by. That's also very, very second-hand looking MX5 as well, that they're going on by in the form of Sam Lehman by the looks of it, who I'd say has had a moment over the top.
Outlap has not gone well for Sam Lehman. And you get a great look at the Sky Active bits. I think he got fed out into some traffic that didn't work out for him on his outlap. So, those who haven't pitted, Jack Boyd is your race leader from Jackson Rehana and Angus Cook. The highest running MX5 appears to be Brady Buchanan, then Caleb Hydes.
Bruce is back in the lane as well, which is interesting to see. Not quite sure if that's for damage or what's happened there, but that's a second pit stop that doesn't look like he needed. Rather interestingly, Gomez is the MX5 leader currently after starting pretty much dead last as well, remember? So he's currently in probably the position that I don't think anyone expected. Currently, everybody more or less spread out at this point.
Sure, it's George Gutierrez. Director feeding us some little furfies there, but maybe it won't be for any longer. Maybe he's a time traveler, because there is George Gutierrez taking Bath Bomb into pit lane.
He needs to slap some Lush logos on that thing just to add to it. But Jay is clearly a time traveler, because Gomez will become the MX5 leader so long as he doesn't pit. We'll see what happens this time by. Stephen Owens had to tow back to pit lane after something happening over the top. Gomez does indeed come down to the lane this time by, but we get a virtual racing school replay of what's happened over the top with Stephen Owen coming I'd say...
That car's already crook.
Yeah, I'd say he's hit the wall on the exit of Silman by the looks of it.
He's parked it because he's realised the car was already a bit iffy. Here he is at the cutting. Oh, hello. You could put it here, where he... it just goes wide and clobbers the wall.
Yeah, that's definitely an odd one, I'd say. Especially considering he made the previous 2 corners as well, so...
You would say something like VR headset went black or something. But more TCR excitement, though, because all of the top 4 are on pit lane. Simultaneously, Jack Boyd led in Angus Cook, led in Christopher Henn, led in Richard Brookfield. Is Matthew McMillan pitting? He's not.
Yes.
So he's
No,
going
he
to
is.
go... Wait, he is? Yeah. Maybe they've reached the end of their starting fuel.
Yeah, more than likely is the case, I think, based on the fact they're all pitting at the same time. So we'll see who possibly decides to maybe under fuel and try and jump each other in strategy. Boyd is out first, so he holds his position. Angus Cook is out second. And is going to come out just behind his teammate of Jackson Rihanna as well.
And so a couple of those ones who pitted earlier, like Rohana and Vartanian, have come through into 2nd and 4th, and you saw Aaron Oliver swoop around and get back ahead of a bunch of cars. For the MX-5s, now that it seems like their strategy is unwinding. Hello, George Gutierrez. I bet you that car would smell like lavender.
I want to say it would smell like bubblegum, but I don't know. It would smell like something you would go, that's just amazing.
Maybe it'd smell like whatever those Smiggle rubbers smelt like.
That was a very unique smell, I must admit.
Yeah, it smelled like... Here we go. Here's a little bit of MX-5 action. Down Conrod straight, as you expect. Hides, remember, early damage for him, and he's trying to work his way back through the field, trying to get around Buchanan, but he's pulled out of the slipstream early and sort of stalled out at a similar pace in the end. I think Buchanan's realised we can ride along with this. We can wait. Yep. Hides it was. His next target, Gutierrez. Oh, to the pit lane we're going to go.
So maybe it's some damage filled, but how's the chaos going on in the TCR field at the moment with Aaron Oliver having to do battle with Christopher Henn, who's going to try around the outside on the way through the chase. He's going to have the inside for the following corner. Andrew Hobby is going to be ducked in right behind as well. He's going to try and take advantage of the situation as well. He's going to look to the inside. He's going to look to the outside. He's going to look back to the inside of Aaron Oliver. Not quite going to go for the move, though. And as a result, it's just going to sit station behind Aaron Oliver.
All this for 5th place. Henn in front of Oliver, in front of Hobby, and Lachlan Manif on the train as well.
Actually surprised Manif is sitting there waiting. You would have thought he might have got a pass done or two in the last lap or so, with the fact that he's had some really, really good pace so far. So to wait and see what he does, whether he's possibly just sitting, waiting, being a little bit more patient and waiting till a safety car maybe comes out. We'll have to wait and see, but it's going to be very tight on the way through the cutting, though, as there's an MX-5 blocking the road in the form of Sam Lehman, and Manif's going to get a little bit held up. He actually looked to have a move on Andrew Hobby going, but unfortunately Lehman decided to appear suddenly, and that's caused him to have to back out of it and sit in behind for a little bit longer, and that's kind of allowed Christopher Henn to break away a little bit as well.
a lot of these little MX-5s look like they're very much in danger of getting freight trained by a bunch of Audi TCRs. But so far, all good stuff. Oliver, very lively across the hill there. I thought he was heading for the wall. He managed to keep it away from the wall. Sean Doyle going to be able to do the same. He's got a good line here, but even in these cars, not really a place you can pass until you maybe look to the inside of the elbow. But even then, you're thinking you'd rather wait. We're going to have a safety car. First safety car of the day is being called. And that's going to bring Jack Boyd backwards towards the field. That battle we've been watching, 5th, 6th, etc. in TCR, they were as far as 20 seconds behind Jack Boyd. Now they are all going to close back up.
Yeah, they certainly are, and it's going to really spice up this race. But Manif decides to duck down onto the lane as well, which is a interesting call. We'll have to see what the reason behind this is, whether he's got to put in a little bit of extra fuel, or maybe he's going to put on some new rubber. We'll have to wait and see, but he's going to lose a lot of track position as a result. He's going to slot in behind at least Shannon McMillan at the moment, probably going to slot in behind the likes of Matthew McMillan as well, but nevertheless, it's a little bold strategy call that's possibly going to pay off, but he won't lose it too much in the end, and literally stop for, I'd say, a second, so that's either a penalty or a very short dash of fuel.
Maybe he just had a really dirty windscreen and needed a tear off. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Recapping, top 5 in TCR is Jack Boyd, from Jackson Rayhana, Angus Cook, Mario Vartanian, and Christopher Henn. Your leaders in the MX-5 class, George Gutierrez. He got through that pit stop really quickly, must be said. Leading Caleb Hydes from Nick Skariev, Ray Morgan, Brady Buchanan.
This will be interesting though to see whether the MX-5s get waved around or not. You'd have to think they do, but nevertheless, could pose some challenges for some of these drivers who have to navigate some of these MX-5s on the restart. And sounding like the MX-5s are indeed going to get waved through, so going to be a nice clean restart for all the TCRs. So I'll have to see if anybody's going to pit this time by in the TCR class, maybe even the MX-5 class, to see what happens, especially those getting waved around with how this is all going to work out with the safety car period. As the MX-5s that get waved around this time, you got Skariev, Morgan, Buchanan, Lehman, Connors, and Doyle all getting waved by now. So we'll see if any of them duck down on to the lane to get some service done. Maybe put on a new set of tyres or get any damage fixed. Gomez joins them as well, and you have to think some others will. Indeed, Dylan Burst and pretty much the entire MX-5 field are going to get a wave around by the looks of it. Caleb Hydes and Gutierrez are going to have a lot of work to do to get to the back of the train with how this is going. None of the MX-5s are starting to pit, so everybody's staying out and doesn't look like anybody's going to be taking any service or not. And certainly no pit stops happening for any of the MX-5s. So everybody going around to get their lap back at least. And
like he wants
possibly a pit. No, Rihanna, and deciding to do a little bit of a fake there.
There's a refresh on some of our graphics. Don't they look good? Green for TCR, blue for MX-5, and now Gutierrez stands out as your leader. He has the maximum zoom at the moment.
He certainly does. Him and Caleb Hyde, well, Caleb Hyde's and himself are just coming through the final corner now. Hyde's deciding to duck down onto the lane, and Sharp in the lane currently as well. So interesting call by Hyde's to come down onto the lane, but Gutierrez will continue to hold that lead in the MX-5 class. The rest of the MX-5 class only just coming through the dip now, so it's going to be a long lap for these TCRs to wait behind the safety car.
Can we take a look at some of the coconuts we've got? I do believe we ought to have cameras for second and third in our train. I got to imagine Angus Cook isn't blinking the same as his headlights are, as they just have to wait patiently. I don't know what he's looking at.
So, there we go.
Good on you, champ. Good on you, Keith. That's what we wanted. He's got time for it right now.
I was literally about to say he's probably just been told that he's on camera, so he's going to give us a wave. So, and I wasn't wrong, but we'll see whether Sean Doerr's going to give us one or not. Looks very, very focused, trying to catch the tail end of the safety car train, which is just coming through Sulman Park now. Isaac Edwards, also one of the drivers joining us on Zoom, currently sitting in the TCR field, currently P13, so not doing it too bad for himself, considering he's started P15, so 2 pit positions gained there so far in the race.
Gloves, look at the focus. He's ready to get this one restarted. It's possible it could restart at the end of this lap. Possible we could have one more. Obviously your TCR field is about halfway around the lap. The last of your MX-5s is just coming up to Griffin's Bend about now. If the safety car really just takes its time, particularly down Conrod Straight, then I think we can restart at the end of this lap.
Hope you were right, and I think you would be, but we'll have to see what race control is going to end up saying. You'd have to presume that we end up going green this time, by with the fact that the MX-5, not too far away from getting it to the back, and we're only just coming onto Conrod now out of Forest Elbow, so we'll see what happens, but it's probably going to be just over 30 minutes remaining in this race, so we've completed half nearly, and we're going to have another half to go.
First half was good. Second half shaping up as well. Can definitely see a lot of MX-5s have caught the field as well. Gives me hope that we will get racing again at the end of this one. Official confirmation that will be happening, be coming back to racing at the end of this lap. Jack Boyd gonna lead them back to racing. There's that mirror I was talking about. It is wide.
This is quite the wide boy of America. You can nearly call it an ultra wide, I guess.
Yeah, it's something. It's not quite this view backwards though. At the whole field, one big snake. Jack Boyd obviously starting to back them up a little. Tough break for him is that he's got teammates lined up right behind him. And he's about to decide it's go time, and we're racing again in Club Day Masters at Mount Panorama. Side by side already between Oliver and Hobby. Oliver's got his snout in front into Hell Corner. George Gutierrez is under an incredible amount of pressure here from Caleb Hydes.
Yes, certainly is. As Hydes is going to want to get on by as quickly as he possibly can to try and hopefully build a little bit of a gap, but we'll have to see what happens in the TCR field. It's very, very hotly contested with a few trying their hand. It moves on the way through Griffin's Bend, and Rayhana's certainly not letting Jack Boyd get away easily. And nearly had a look, did Angus Cook as well on his teammate, but wasn't quite close enough to get the job done. Very, very close there between everybody. And let's say it's going to be on for that lead of the race very, very shortly.
Yeah, for sure. Jack Boyd was well and proper wide at Griffin's Bend there as well, where you don't want to be on the wrong side of the camber of the road, and that let Rayhana and Cook get very, very close here. They all jump across the top of the hill, then towards Brock's Skyline, diving down. Looked like Hobby picking up a little bit of gravel on a bit of a beach trip.
Wouldn't quite say it was gravel. It was definitely at least green stuff, and was not the kind that you probably want to be dealing with. So he was lucky to get away with that one. But Caleb Hydes has indeed made his way on by George Gutierrez to take the lead of the MX5 class, and they've built quite a little bit of a gap as well to the rest of the MX5 class as well, with Scary struggling to try and keep up at the moment. But back in the TCR class, everybody single file on the way down through Conrod, and Lehman also getting involved in some fights on the way out of Forest Albert with the likes of Burse and Sean Doyle just sitting in the background as well.
Yeah, for sure. George Gutierrez doing a good job to stick with his class leader. The TCR battles are sketchy in places, and here's a few cars moving forward. You know, we're trying to see Sam Lehman come forward, Dylan Burse maybe looking to come forward, and it is all risky stuff here. I'd call that 3 of them off the track. I'd call them 4. No. Sam Lehman is almost going to get drilled, but he's just going to get sent into the barrier, and probably see him in the pit lane for the 3rd time today. It's been tough break for him. He's Vartanian in 4th, trying to take a run at Cook, who's defending the inside, but maybe not enough. Swaps back, can't get the nose down the inside.
Not quite able to make any progress at that time by, but at the moment it's looking like Brady Buchanan is sitting it nicely tucked in just ahead of Dylan Burst. We'll get a virtual racing score replay and see what's happened here between Sean Doyle and Ray Morgan in the move for currently the 6th place in the class, and a little bit of contact on the way down the front straight. Doyle's going to take that position straight off Ray Morgan there on the way into turn 1.
Well, here you go. Jack Boyd is wiping the floor with everyone else in TCR at the minute, leaving Jackson Rayhana to fend for himself, and fend for himself he must, with teammate as rear gunner, but then Mario Vartani, Christopher Henn, Aaron Oliver, Andrew Hobby, all in the train. And how much longer is Cook going to protect him for? That's a bump draft down Conrod Straight. try to save second place for Rayhana.
These top few drivers really squabbling it out as Vartanian's going to try and take advantage of that mistake from Angus Cook. They're on the way through the chase, and he dives to the inside on Angus Cook. He goes defensive on the way down into the final quarter to only just hold on to that position. It is getting very, very heated in this little battle pack for the final spot on the podium, and Vartanian dives to the inside again, but not quite going to be close enough. A little bit of a nudge on the mid corner, and that's going to check them all up now, and Christopher Hen's going to look to try and take advantage of what's been going on in this little battle pack ahead of him. He's going to drag around the outside of Vartanian, who's going to be blocked in by both Hen and also Cook, and he's going to be stuck on the outside for Griffins now. There's Christopher Hen as they come up towards the braking zone. He's going to try and sweep around the outside. He might just do it. It's not quite going to be able to work, though, by the looks of it, and Cook's just going to hang on. Vartanian's going to try hold the outside. Is he? Oh, no, contact, and Hen's in the fence.
A tough place to go 2 by 2 there, and Hen just tried to hold the inside. He's come off a little wide potentially, and then made contact.
He's still struggling to get going as well. He's going to have to do another turnaround as well to get things straight, which is not going to be ideal at all. He's thankfully not going to impede any of the MX-5 traffic, which is just coming up to the cutting now, and Gutierrez still sitting in right in behind Caleb Hydes, who's doing a fantastic job at the moment leading this race and managing to just do enough at the moment to hold off Gutierrez.
Yeah, it's showing us that the slipstream is worth a good amount here. So he has been very easily passed by Hydes, but has not let Hydes get away. Meanwhile, Vartanian has a drive-through penalty for his role in helping Hen into the wall. Almost hitting the rev limiter behind Aaron Oliver is Andrew Hobby. Through the chase they come, now battling for 4th and 5th. Stay that way because Mario Vartanian is behind them now in 7th. So they're not going to gain anything more from his drive-through penalty, which I think he's taking now, serving now.
Yeah,
Or is it a 1 second hold?
We'll find out shortly what it is, but I'd say it's more than likely going to be a penalty for him. It's a little bit longer than 1 second by the looks of it, so I'd say that's going to be sitting there for quite some time, unfortunately, for that penalty. And into the lane comes Christopher Hen to get those repairs, I would say, fixed after that contract. I didn't actually think it was going to be that. It looked like that big of a hit to damage car, but nevertheless, he's come on in to get some repairs done. Gutierrez, though, currently still hounding the back of Caleb Hydes at the moment, who can't seem to break away from George Gutierrez, who's using the draft to his advantage, and just over that MX-5 field, just not quite able to keep up at the moment. It's led by Dylan Burson, P3 at the moment, but we'll have to see what happens and whether he's going to be able to catch up to those top 2 as well.
Cook, Oliver, Hobby, and Harrison again. Jackson Rayhana has gotten away from them a little bit now as well. Smoke ever persistent in the air in some of the difficult braking zones. And what a difficult braking zone Forest Elbow is. Downhill, blind, cross a crest, moving from one side of the road across to the other. So a little lock up here and there. Not a surprise, but Oliver looks really under pressure here. Is Hobby going to dart to the inside? I think Oliver has it covered, but only just.
The only just is the key point because it's very, very close and very, very tight at the moment. And one mistake is all it's going to take for these drivers to all file on by the car ahead should a mistake happen, but we'll have to see what's going to happen with just over 20 minutes left on the clock in this race. So everything's still to play for in the MX5 field as well. It's all still to play for the minor positions. As Ray Morgan running very wide and nearly finding the concrete in the process as well on the exit of the dipper. They're going to go side by side through the elbow, and he's going to try and hold on to it, but decides to let Paradiso go. And Connors is going to be right in this as well, and it's probably going to get the move done, I'd say, down Conrad.
Yeah, Paradiso was an inch from the wall off the exit of the elbow there. Really got wide with that line where he had to come around the outside. You don't practice that one. It's unconventional. You rarely find yourself on that bit of tarmac. Meanwhile, I think there's aerodynamic damage. It's not helping Ray Morgan here either. And that's probably going to let Connors get onto the racing line. Doesn't want to give it up, just Ray Morgan. He's down the inside. And he keeps it on the painted stuff. So that's going to keep Connors at bay. But also let Paradiso get a little bit further up the road. Rayhana has caught Jack Boyd for the lead, which is very interesting to see as well. I didn't see any scruffy laps from Jack Boyd. I think Rayhana just found a couple of laps in a row where he was able to pull 0.2 of a second out of him. And that was enough to erode the gap from 1.3 seconds closer to 0.8 seconds to then be in the slipstream as he is right now. You're going to see all the way down Conrod Straight, especially as they come up 4th gear, 5th gear, and then into 6th gear, over the crest here as well, where the speed of the car in the slipstream starts to erode and evaporate the leader's speed. Jack Boyd hitting about 240 in the speed trap, Rayhana hitting about 244.
Very, very quick on the way down, and Hobby off the road. That's not getting well. That was very, very close for Aaron Oliver. That nearly ended in tears, but Hobby only just holding on to that one.
For sure, soiled pants moment. Here comes Manif to swoop up another position potentially. He's going to run him out of road. Lee Harrison makes contact with the barrier there. Let's take a look, because we need to see how on earth Andrew Hobby didn't wipe out anyone with that one. He found the one car gap and he's ended up in it. Did he touch the grass? He's touched a bit of the grass, I think, as he's gotten on the brakes. Speared him to the left, speared him up in the air across the curb, back over the other side of the racetrack. Wow.
Yeah, very, very lucky to get away with that one and not end up in strife at all. Get another angle of it from on board Aaron Oliver to see what it looked like. It just looked like touch grass, and that was it pretty much. Off he went, and that was very, very close to being so much worse.
Well, what's the Simpsons scene where the guy walks on one side of the stage, keeps walking and walks off the other end of the stage? Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I do, and I can't remember what episode and season it is.
Mo in the Mortality Bachelor. So it just reminds me of that. It disappears one side of the screen, constant velocity, left to right, disappears, exit stage right or whatever. That's physical comedy, just entering and exiting the frame. Gutierrez still with Hides, and the two of them 4 seconds away from Dylan Burst, but Burst was quicker last lap. Kind of shock absorber is in there. I like the Penske Spec Miata shocks. Those are dispense.
I'd say they definitely are.
Rayhana, he's gotten around Jack Boyd. I'm going to say that the slipstream on Conrod Straight has done something for that. Here it is. Here comes Rayhana. And easy as you like. In live pictures, Jack Boyd has gotten him back, so this is shaping up as a good battle for the lead. As easily as Rayhana got it, Jack Boyd has snatched it back. And they're nose to tail, bumper to bumper, up towards Griffin's Bend, and Rayhana decides he is going to wait. My count says 7 laps still to go in this one.
Yeah, be about right, I would say, with the amount of time left. So starting to get closer and closer to the end of this race. But that MX5 battle still yet to let up as they continue to do battle on the way down Conrod Straight. Doing a bit of a drag race with Scary of just in the background. Doyle and Buchanan. Buchanan's going to have a slight disadvantage as Scary going to try and get a move done here. He's looking left, he's looking right, he's trying to find a gap. It doesn't currently exist, but is going to decide to just back off and think better of it. And Doyle is going to come back out ahead in that battle.
This is functionally 4th in class, and 5th and 6th. This is literally the overall lead. Boyd and Rayhana. I don't think Rayhana's anywhere near as close as he was the other lap, where from about 4/10 back, the move was easy. But when you're closer, it looks like this for Andrew, Hobby, and Manif. And then Hobby just has the wider entry, comes around, will be very mindful of the grass, I'm sure.
It certainly is this time by. No grass there that time by down through the chase, thankfully. It's still on between those 3 currently in the MX5s for 4th, 5th and 6th, and certainly doesn't show signs of letting up at all. And that battle for the lead as well, and MX5 still going on. Gutierrez has dropped off a little bit though to Caleb Hides, and Dylan Burst currently trying to hunt them down, but the pace just seems to be a little bit too quick at the moment compared to Caleb Hides, but it was a little bit quicker than Gutierrez that last time by, so we might see him end up getting up to possibly P2, but back at the front of the TCR field, it's certainly all on at the moment between Aaron Oliver and Angus Cook, and Oliver's all over the back of Cook at the moment, poking the nose out on the way into the cutting, but not going to be able to get a move done there.
I thought he was doing it for the cameras, but now I know Cook really, really didn't want to be held up by Sam Lehman there. That's why he had the headlight flashes going. Tell you what would make Cook a little bit quicker is if he fixed that windshield banner. Then he'd be as quick as teammate Jackson Rayhana. But this for the final podium position between Cook and Oliver. I think the traffic, there's no nice place to cross the top of the mountain there to catch traffic. Sam Lehman did everything he could to get out of their way. But even then, I think it still just cost a little bit more time to Aaron Oliver than it did to Angus Cook, who doesn't quite have the time to wave like he did under safety car. This is a little bit more strenuous. As you can see from the long shot there, you can see Boyd and Rayhana up the road as well. They're only just up front. He can keep an eye on what they're doing. Well, he's got Oliver behind, and Hobby and Manif charging as well.
Yeah, certainly Hobby and Manif starting to close that gap down to Oliver and Cook, who are not too far up the road, but still we'll have to see what's going to happen as Gary was actually made his way on by Buchanan as well on that last lap or so, has gained a position there and is now going to be trying to go on the hunt for Sean Dorr to try and gain another position, moving to 4th here. We'll see what he's going to do though, and Scary getting a little bit squirrely on the way in, so that's going to compromise his exit, and Buchanan's now going to be right on the tail of him on the way up towards the cutting.
Doyle's got a serious case of leaning into the corners here. There is Skariev now the fly in the sandwich. But is he going to be able to hang with Doyle? Doyle's got the focus across the top of the hill here, trying to use this part of the track where the slipstream doesn't matter and the driver's skill and commitment does, to break away, put more time between himself and Skariev before they come to the long Conrod straight. But I don't think it's working. This has been smooth from, not the car we're riding on board with, smooth from Skariev to stick with him. But for Buchanan, that was a bit out of sorts at the dipper. Looking good for Nick.
Looking very, very good on the way down Conrad for Skariev as they head down towards the lowest part of it before heading up the little rise, and Skariev's pulled out to get the move done on the way through the kink at the chase, and he's going to have got that one sorted. Nearly just manages to slot in ahead of Sean Doyle and take that position to move into P4 in class. So nice move by Skariev to gain another position there, and we'll try and pull away, but I can't see that happening.
No, they're three all stacked in here. As I say, for third in class. Because fourth in class, because Burst is in no man's land, and then up the front it's still Hyde's leading there with Gutierrez not letting him get away. That's what I mean. Burst all by himself there. Sesame Street livery is better than the Rat. Is Doyle getting back down the inside in Griffin's Bend, though. Not a surprise there. And Skariev gets hung out to dry. Really has to get out of the power to not end up as dog food. And that might give Buchanan, no, not an opportunity to get around the outside there. You need a lot of overspeed, and you need to be massively brave. What's been the problem here for Jackson Rehana? Second off on the last lap.
I'm not entirely sure what's happened on that last lap. Possibly, I want to say possibly traffic holding him up, but it doesn't look like there's anything obvious that's occurred other than traffic.
Ooh.
Oh, Boyd in the background.
Yeah.
This is going to allow Rehana to close up as well, with the fact that he's got 3 MX-5s to deal with, and he's not going to be able to get by anytime soon, and he's still going to get held up on the way through the elbow as well. So Rehana's really going to close the gap up now, with the fact that there is those MX-5s holding him up by quite a bit as well.
Gotten in there with his elbows and Matt Campbelled it. I don't know. Easier said than done. Much easier said than done. Look at Sean Doyle cleverly, though, trying to pick up a little bit of TCR slipstream to help him in his battle. What about the TCR battle, though? Here comes Rehana. Zoom, zoom. And has to be careful with the final one. Really, really losing time there. I thought he would have been able to get all 3 of them. I thought he would have been able to keep the throttle in, but he couldn't. Now he's got to wait to get around Skariev and then get around Doyle. Has brought Andrew Hobby into the picture. I meant to say Aaron Oliver, but it's brought both of them together and closer to Rehana and Cook and closer to a podium position.
Yes, he has brought them closer to a podium position, so the fight's going to be well and truly on in these last few laps of this race, with only just over 7 minutes remaining, as many decides to do a little bit of lawn mowing on the way out of turn 1 after running a little bit wide. And Glenn Boyd as well having his own battles currently with Matthew McMillan. Looks to the inside, nearly got the move done, but not quite. But later MX-5 still on, and Gutierrez has actually closed that gap down in the last few laps too. So the lead of the race for MX-5s is currently still well and truly on, and anybody's guess as to who's going to end up coming away with this one, whether it's Hydes or Gutierrez.
Aaron Oliver is in a prime position at the moment. It says battle for second, and that's not wrong. Rahana, Oliver, Hobby just trailing off the back, but Aaron Oliver looking to come on strong late in the race.
He certainly will be wanting to come on it strong. He's waited all race to get to this point, and he's now going to be in a very, very good position to come away with some nice handy points as well if he can get on by Cook and Rihanna. So we'll have to see what he can do, but he has to remember that Andrew Hobby is looming just in behind him as well, and is going to be ready to pounce should a mistake occur, or the fact that those three ahead of Hobby start to battle quite hard. So we'll have to see what's going to happen here. But Aaron Oliver setting up the move on Angus Cook as they come down at Conrad into chase. Oliver's going to be stuck on the outside, nearly contact between the two of them, and not quite going to be able to get the move done at that time into the chase of Aaron Oliver.
I think there was definitely a bit of side-to-side contact in that one. So now Cook is going to defend. What does Hobby do? He has to wait. And then push Oliver off the corner. Oliver's just going to get to the inside. You can't close that door anymore once his nose is in there. But apparently you can.
He was certainly trying to close it a little bit more, but it was getting very, very marginal to ending in tears down the front straight that time by. So very, very lucky to not have anything worse happen, but there's more MX5 traffic coming up as they're all blowing on by Dylan Burst. They've also got Hides and Gutierrez just up the road. Gutierrez has actually made his way on by Hides as well. So still battling for the lead are those two, and I'd say Hides is possibly going to want to stay behind here and get the draft on the last lap, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But this is going to hold all these guys up on the way over the top of the mountain.
Yeah, no easy ways to do it here. You've got to... Oh, that's not going to work. Went way too early. Huge checkup. Hobby's going to come around the outside, but doesn't know what to do. Trying to force their way through the TCR cars. They're probably just going to have to yield on this one. So Cook is through. Rahana is through. Oliver has to wait. Skyline. George Gutierrez is going to be thankful that that runoff is paved. He's going to end up with a slowdown.
And he's going to have to let cars by as well. Oh, a little bit of contact as well. Oh, no, in the wall.
Gutierrez on the racing line trying to give up that slowdown with TCR cars behind him, I think is what has occurred there. And he's been escorted duly into the wall with some collateral damage there as well. Aaron Oliver is very displeased because he was trying to hang with Rahana and Cook. It was always going to be a tension point between the two classes here. So here's how it starts. Gutierrez trying to use the TCRs to put space between himself and Caleb Hides. All comes to a head here. We've got a Jordan Cox impersonator, and he gives him no room. He's got the slowdown penalty. Goes through the dipper. Well, you can't see much from there. You can see the end result, which is dramatic. A lot of smoke, a lot of damage.
It's a little bit weird because he kind of held the inside line, but they just sort of drifted out towards Oliver, and that was it. Straight in the wall, unfortunately.
And Oliver going to get that car fixed up, get it back out there, but, well, there's only 2 laps to go. We're going to get the white flag next time. And it's removed him away from the podium battle, which is now just Rahana and Cook. Andrew Hobby just off the back of it. For the lead of the MX-5s, though, all of that time lost for Hides to let Dylan Burst catch him in the Sesame Street mobile.
It's not quite Bert and Eddie, but it's at least Bert. Although I don't think that Bert will be cleaning up the racetrack anytime soon.
I don't think he's got Alex Premer's number either.
Yeah, probably not. Also, interesting to note that Lee Harrison was leaving pit lane just in briefer moments earlier, which is a little bit interesting, but nevertheless, he's back out and racing, and Angus Cook and Jackson Rihanna currently the two teammates are scrapping it out on the way down at Conrod. Jack Boyd, though, has done a fantastic job out the front of the field and has just got now a very, very nice buffer back to Rihanna and Cook, who are currently still scrapping it out. It'll be interesting to see what happens between those two, but he's certainly driven a very, very good race as Jack Boyd as he comes to the white flag this time by.
Yeah, exactly. Not much time left, so that means the start of the final lap. And he's a little fortunate how he got through the traffic. Hides is not fortunate the pressure he's got from bursts at the moment, as this battle is going to start the final lap as well. And then the games begin. Where do you want to be on the final lap? The answer is kind of, you want to be second coming out of Forest Elbow, don't you?
You kind of do, but we'll have to see what's going to happen, whether Burst is going to decide to try and play this one a little bit, or what's going to happen. And they have to remember that they're going to have TCR traffic coming on through as well, so might not necessarily end up being the place that you want to be in second. We'll have to wait and see what happens, as they've got McMillan and Glenn Boyd for company on the way through. Griffin's bend, and Hyde tries to turn in, but has to go wide, and that's nearly ended in tears for nearly all of them, really. McMillan lucky to get away with that one, and Burst is going to have given up a lot of time as well.
Yeah, I think McMillan got in quite hot there. Through the final time at the elbow for Jack Boyd. Untroubled at the moment, nursing this one home to finish what I think is going to be an 18-lap race all said and done. No, longer than that, pardon me, 24-lap race all said and done or so.
And won't complain at all with the result there's going to come away with in this race as well. And with the fact that it is an enduro and there's extra points on offer, it's going to help him in the championship as well to extend his current lead. And it's also going to help with the fact that he's got a few drivers who have...
He's going to finish it in style. So through the final corner, Jack Boyd goes with a little bit of a drift, and then he pulls the handbrake as well. Well-deserved win from Jack Boyd. Rehana's going to hold off Cook, I think, as they try to make it a bit of a photo finish, but Hobby couldn't mix in with it.
Yeah, not quite going to be happening in the end. So Cook's going to come home third, Hobby fourth, Manif fifth, and Shannon McMillan with Richard Brookfield. And Brookfield's actually managed to get that position off Shannon McMillan as well to come home sixth. And McMillan's going to be seventh, Matthew McMillan eighth. MX5 is looking like it's going to go to Caleb Hides, though, who's done enough in the end to come away with the win in MX5. Dylan Bush just unfortunately getting held up by traffic on that last lap, and he's going to have to settle for second to finish where he started as well.
Aaron Oliver's picked off Isaac Edwards at the line as well for one last spot and some crucial points. Here's Sean Doyle, and that's going to be a podium for him.
It certainly is. So reasonably happy, but doesn't look like he's too fazed by it.
We know he's a decent bloke, but he does look like, you know, he scares children and never smiles at anything. I think he's aware of that as well. But anyway, he's Paradiso and Connors. This could still change, but I don't think Paradiso is quite close enough unless there's a big mistake from Connors here. needed to be a lot closer to be able to send one down the inside there, and he couldn't. And there's Lehman immediately behind, and then Ray Morgan to complete the some of those MX-5s. I get the feeling there's quite a few going around a little bit further who are going to be lining up for that jump in a moment, but that has brought everyone across the checkered flag. We can look at the results of Club Day Masters at Mount Panorama in the 1 hour enduro. Jack Boyd wins from Summit teammates Rehana and Cook. Then Andrew Hobby, Lachlan Manif, Richard Brookfield, Shannon McMillan, Glenn Boyd, Matthew McMillan. And then, look at this one. Aaron Oliver has finished just ahead of Isaac Edwards by 1/10 of a second. A position I think he gained somewhere in the final sector of the final lap. And then the last classified lead lap TCR cars are Christopher Henn and Lee Harrison.
You go to the MX-5 class, and you have Caleb Hyde's taking out the race win with Dylan Burson second, Sean Doyle to round out the podium. Nick Scariev takes 4th in class with Buchanan rounding out the top 5. Fraser in 6th, 7th to Anthony Connors Parody, so will be followed by Sam Lehman, Ray Morgan, George Gutierrez, and then Daniel Gomez. And then you have all your DNFs. You got Vartanian, Sharp, Owen, Vantagiato, and Sharp to round out the 30-car field.
Oh, there we go. It had a little bit of everything. Occasionally a little bit too much friction between drivers and between classes today at Mount Panorama Bathurst. What we can do is grab our race winners, pick their brains, and hear from them after a grueling hour at Mount Panorama. So, MX-5 winner, Caleb Hydes, is not hiding from us, so we can speak to him. I think the first thing I got to ask is not dodge the controversy. What did you see of the TCR cars towards the end there?
Yeah, look, it was scary at the top of the hill, at the top of the mountain, on the last couple of laps. So we had basically the whole TCR field going through. But luckily, I got safely through without damage, and George got caught up in an incident with the TCRs, which I almost piled into, and I was able to avoid that. So I got pretty lucky towards there at the end, but yeah, it was scary for sure.
Strategy was a bit of a nothing today. I mean, tell us about the start there and then the pit stop and everything around that.
Yeah, well, I had a low speed talent failure on lap 1. I just went into the cutting and front didn't turn, so I hit the wall there. And I think the league admin said they forgot to put the fuel cap on. So we're able to take all our fuel in our stop. So I just pit lap 1, took all the fuel I needed, and I got home to the end quite safely by like 7 liters, I think. So yeah, it was pretty straightforward with the pit stop. So yeah.
Then on the restart, you got around Gutierrez very easily, but it seemed like the slipstream for these cars here at Bathurst is what you would expect. You just couldn't shake him.
Yeah, the plan was when I got in front was try and use what I learnt from the quali. Me and Dylan set decent times over the field, so I was going to try and pull away, but it was too difficult, and George was very fast in the race as well. So yeah, I wasn't able to do that, but it turned out to be all right in the end.
So it did. Caleb, you are the winner in this endurance round of Club Day Masters. Who are you going to thank?
Just a big thank you to Dropbow Motorsports, SimSpeed for putting on the broadcast for this, everyone that runs Club Day Masters, and yeah, thanks for everyone for the good race.
See you next week.
So yeah, have a good one.
We'll try. Cam, can you see Jack Boyd?
I cannot actually, which is rather
Knows where to
fascinating.
find it. We haven't been too mean to him in past. That's a shame.
So,
Someone else from now then, Cam? You can take your pick. I'll let you decide who you want to tap on the shoulder.
I think we certainly need to interview Aaron Oliver, and unfortunately, it wasn't the night that you hoped it ended up being it for you.
Nah, boys, it was a bit of an unfortunate end in those last couple of laps. We had a very solid race to come from outside the top 10 to be fighting for the last couple of podium positions, and unfortunately we just came unstuck or going down through the dipper, and that just before the dipper, and the race was over.
Yeah, certainly ended in tears for you and a few others. From your perspective, as far as traffic goes, was it hard to navigate the MX-5s at all, or did you find it was, for the most part at least, reasonably easy?
For most of the MX-5s, when we were overlapping them, they gave plenty of room. And obviously when we're going up there was a battle for the top 3 in their class. And that's what's going to happen, and they're still going at it. But by the time we got to that leading car, and the other two had already let us go by pretty easily, and we're pretty happy to just keep on racing together. They would have came back to it, like they would have had their own race back on the Conrod and that. But yeah, I mean, that one car just had to put it in the wrong position, on that last lap, on those last couple of laps. So yeah, apart from that, most of them were really good, apart from just a couple,
Yeah, unfortunately ended in tears, but nevertheless you managed to recover, thankfully, a top 10 out of it and score some vital points towards the championship. We head to Alton Park next week. Thoughts and opinions on the track in general?
I've only ever done a couple of laps around Alton Park in the past. I think one of them was, I reckon, started last season's series. Yeah, I think that was the last time we went to Alton Park and done a few laps around there. Personally, I like the track in that. I've raced it a couple of times in an MX-5 too, so it'll be very interesting to see how we go.
Yeah, definitely will be interesting to see what happens next week. Well, before that you go, just any thanks and any shout outs you want to give?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. I just want to thank to all the people that follow my racing and that are watching the stream tonight. And then, of course, I want to thank all my sponsors, Penrod Oil, Joe Morano from Harcourt's Real Estate, Repco, Murray Bridge, MV World and Engineering Co. And yeah, thanks, guys, for the stream tonight.
Well, there you have it. Aaron, a little bit disappointed, but nevertheless, we look forward to next weekend. I believe you're standing by with Angus Cook, David.
Yeah, exactly. I am. Great battle back and forth. Yourself and your teammate there as well in Jackson, Rayhana. A bit of work together. Tell us about that one there. And in the end, you guys really wanted to hunt down Jack Boyd and it couldn't happen.
Yeah, hey David, hey Cam. Good to be back in the comms box. Wasn't expecting to be here tonight after probably those first 5 laps and how hectic it was. Got pretty lucky early on with, I think, Lee Harrison and Ivan teammates taking out each other, and I guess we were the lucky 2 other teammates who managed to work together, and we worked out a gap and we got boxed in by MX-5s. There was 3 of them, or 3 or 4 of them that managed to box us in at the chase, and we lost about 2 seconds. And yeah, I had to send it at Skyline, I think against Gutierrez, to do something at least to try and break that gap, and that's what I guess popped the bottle. And yeah, luckily we came home with a P23, and yeah, pretty ecstatic. Might not seem it, but yeah, we're pretty stoked.
Anytime there's a safety car, you're going to have to think on your feet with the strategy, but I think you had to think on your feet extra quick today with an unexpected fuel limit when you came to the grid. That really might have taken out some of the later strategy computations, but it definitely maybe had to make you reset early.
Well, I was just expecting that to be the case, because that's kind of what it's been in all the other races where because they're sprint races, you just fill up, at the pit stop. So that was always the plan. We were always planning and chucking about 50 litres in. So for us, it was no different. It was more of a surprise that it was going to be that. I guess we didn't read up, or we just really weren't aware. It would have made for a really good race though, because it would have just put us back in traffic constantly. Whereas it kind of ended up that the traffic wasn't much of a difference. But that safety car obviously meant that we were going to hit them again at some point, and it just happened to be with about 5 minutes to go. So it made for a spectacle, I'm sure, on the broadcast with us trying to fight through. And it's kind of a weird feeling braking through Reed Park and stuff, but having to look in the rear view and brake and position your car where the car behind's going to brake and not rear end you, but also you keep your position. So it was more mirror driving, I think, tonight than actually driving forward, especially with the headwind down Conrad.
Plenty of mirror you get given in the Audi TCR as well. Speaking about that headwind down Conrad, you had been the recipient of a double draft several times down there. Is there enough sixth gear in these cars?
No, and there's not enough bump drafting to actually have it work. We tried one lap of the bump draft, but it just made me vulnerable to Mario really early on, which then I had to really defend. There was a lot of defensive driving tonight, probably a bit borderline in all honesty if it was some real racing. Mario was throwing it in there late, fair enough, I'm going to defend it. But yeah, the bump draft wasn't really working, so you had to really send it, but because of that sixth gear and how tall it wasn't kind of tall enough with the draft to be able to make the move. So it was kind of a bit tricky. Luckily enough, I didn't have to make a move. I was behind my teammate Jackson most of the race, and we were working together, him just cutting laps all night long, and me just trying to stay in his draft.
Of course, you've dazzled us with some new paint schemes as well, sort of a A and B scheme between yourself and your teammate. Quickly about that.
Yeah, thanks to John from Flash Graphics. He's one of our partners on the team. He paints a freaking amazing car. He does everything on the service, and honestly, if you're out there looking for a paint, I wouldn't recommend him highly enough. He's part of our team, he's one of our drivers as well. So it's great to drive alongside him. And, when it's either late at night and suddenly it pops up, an F1 car saying, we're never going to drive it, but here's the paint for when we need it. That's the kind of painter you want. So can't thank Flash Graphics enough. He does amazing work, and he's been teaching us a lot of the trade as well. So not only are we getting paints, but we're getting some good skills from him too, and he's just a great bloke all around. So it's been really good. And yeah, as it saw on track, a nice A and B scheme to go.
Cheese and cream just goes well together, the two of them. Well, we look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for joining us again. And anyone you want to thank, I guess, other than Flash Graphics?
Yeah, Flash Graphics is the big one. Phantom Crypto Indicators as well, and the whole team at Summit. All the drivers we've got on board. Viz tonight, he's in Bathurst at an Airbnb and is still here spotting for us. And yeah, so we've got some really great people behind us, and we're doing great things. We've been battling along in some of, I'd say, some of the lower ranks. Some community leagues and stuff. So it's good to be out with the big guns. I should say that. You watch sim speed some nights, you go, wow, they're the drivers that are pretty darn quick, and we're out here beating them, and we're just here in our bedrooms having fun. So you can't really beat that.
Up a little bit if you're going to beat Jack Boyd, but good on you, and hopefully see you two guys next week. Alton Park's going to be a bit different than Bathurst.
Yeah, drafting again, but we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be very tight. Here you can go too wide and get away with it, whereas Alton Park, I feel like it's not going to be the case, but we'll see how that goes.
Thanks, Angus Cook. We'll see you around.
It's good. Catches.
And Cam, I'll see you next week. What are we thinking at Alton Park?
It'll be very fascinating to see what happens. It's a very underrated track, and probably one that's very underutilized as well, from a perspective of how many people actually have raced around it. So looking forward to seeing what's going to happen. It's one of those old school tracks where you've got grass everywhere, and a small mistake is usually going to cost you quite dearly, with the fact that you've got Armco or a barrier very, very close to. But nevertheless, it should provide some really, really good racing.
Exactly, it should. So from myself, David Haynes here, Cam Dance alongside me, Jay Kennedy producing. I want to thank you for tuning in today on SimSpeed and watching Club Day Masters. Big thanks also, of course, go to SimWorks Race Simulators, today's presenting sponsor for Club Day Masters. And do follow us on whatever platforms you are watching, be it Facebook, be it YouTube, be it Twitch, because same bat channel, same bat time next week for Alton Park for Club Day Masters. See you then.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got really outside of both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to him. Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?